just thought, there's a lot of stuff going on with, with how bad the books are nowadays and the modern stuff. So it's like, sitting around and complaining about all the bad stuff. Yeah, maybe that can be fun, roasting them and everything. But a lot of people do that. Who's out there actually promoting something worth reading? Who's out there talking about like, hey, here's something good and you should check it out? I thought maybe that's a tack we could take with this is like kind of instead of steering people away from the bad stuff, which is important, we could also try to maybe steer them towards some good stuff instead.
Well, I got to tell you, without fans, the whole entertainment business would fade away.
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book.
This is going to kill a bunch of comic book stores right there.
It's all, I mean, comic book stores.
Might kill ours.
If you're in any form of entertainment, whether it's comic books or movies or television or whatever, you've got to be grateful to the fans.
And as I've always said, if they're all good, the more the merrier. Mm-hmm. It's a bad thing for us when one of them is not well received. So let's everybody, let's come.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to A Comic Talk. Why is it great with James Meeley? We're back this month talking about comic books that we recommend for you because it's easy to keep piling on. It's easy to point out all the flaws and all the issues and things like that. Who is out there talking about the good stuff? Let's do that. Let's talk about some great comics. James, my brother, thank you for hanging out with me. Hope you're doing well.
Hey, glad to be here, my friend. Glad to always do these. It's like I said, it's one of the few things I really enjoy doing on the internet, so it actually makes it worthwhile for me. So thank you for doing this with me, and let's give the people some good stuff.
Well, that sounds good. I don't want to waste any time. Let's just jump right to it. Your selection was Speedball number 4. So let me pull that up.
Yeah, I chose Speedball number 4 by Roger Stern, Steve Ditko, and Dan Adkins. I figure I've been doing a lot of heavier books since we've been doing this, a lot of heavy, serious storytelling type stuff. I thought, so switch up. Let's have something that's a little more on the fun side. Now, this series, it was one that lasted long. It's from 1988. It didn't last long as it only went 10 issues. And, if you've read through them all, as I have, you kind of understand why. There's really a mishmash. Some were really great. Some weren't so great. And the classic 60s stuff, like when you think of like 60s Spider-Man, that's kind of what this was a throwback to. And, like I said, it was very much hit or miss. But this one to me was probably the best of the series. It's one of the few issues. It was a single issue story, all one issue. They didn't do multiple stories. They did most of the issues. This is one issue, one story, and it's probably one of the best of the entire series. So I thought I'd give guys a little fun one for a change. And we start out here. We have our titular hero here, Robbie Baldwin, aka Speedball. Now, if people don't know about him, what happens is he was exposed to some radiation time as an assistant in a lab. And he gained his powers, but he has very little control over them. Any kind of serious impact to him activates his powers. So you can see right here at the beginning of the story, he's out here at school with some friends, and they play a little prank on him with the football, and they dogpile him. And then, what happens when he gets dogpiled? Well, we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be the releasing of those powers. And look at the reactions in the final panel. It's like, is his secret out? Do his friends realize what's happened? Isn't the case. Instead, they're all shocked at having broken a piece of wall that shows them a skeleton falling out, even as Robbie's powers are starting to materialize. And that's what our story is about. It's about this skeleton. Is a focus of this is the apex of the story of what the story is all about. This skeleton. Who is this person? How they end up in the school wall? What's going on? What's the story behind all this? It's a mystery. And of course, Robbie's going to get sucked into all this in a very personal way. But as you can see here, right here in the bottom of this panel here, the bottom panel of the title page, here's Robbie just going off, trying not to let his powers get loose. He's so scared to death that he's going to, be revealed to everybody. And that's again, one of the key factors of the story is the fact that he has little control over his powers. And you can see he says it right here. I've had nightmares about changing into the masked Marvel in public, but I've never dreamed that a skeleton would keep people from noticing. I've got to get control fast. If someone turns around, they'll forget forget all about those bones. Come on, Rob, you can do it. Slow down, deep breaths. There it is. He's trying to control the power, trying to contain it within himself and not let it be released. So this is like, again, one of the key facets of the character throughout the whole entire series. And you got to love that Ditko art. Look at that right hand of his with the funny finger, the way the fingers are laid out. It's just that's always a sign of Ditko right there. He always had a funny thing with fingers. And that's spotlighted right there. A little classic trivia for those of you who know anything about Steve Ditko's work. And as the story continues, the people, they decide they're going to call the police. They're going to find out what's going on. Who is this guy that was murdered? And the police come in, and there's all the news media is going crazy about it. And right here is where we really come into why Robbie gets involved in this mystery, is because the guy who was killed is named Alexander Bow, and both of his parents knew this guy. As you can see, they both know who it is, and they both have a connection to this guy, and it ends up that they become the prime suspects, of his murder. And each of the parents, the mother and the father, each have a secret about this guy that they've kept from the other for years. I never told Justin the whole story about Alex. Maddie used to date Alex. I could never tell her the truth about him. So there's family secrets going on now, and they're now suspects in murder, and so there's all this stuff going on, and Robbie's caught in the middle of all of this. You see Mom, Dad, we're being invaded, and then of course we see the media doing what the media does even to this day, just totally descending on them, all the crazy stuff we see that happened today. And then as you see here, the politics get involved. You got the police commissioner getting called in by the mayor, and the mayor getting pressure. All these people, we got to find out who this murderer is. We got to put this to bed quickly. Put everyone you can spare on this case, Chief. We need to crack down on this quickly. And you can see it's just, here's our real killer here in the red. Right here in the last panel, we see our first glimpse of the actual killer. Who are they? Is that Robbie's father? Could it be? Is he the one who did it? And as time goes on, it just gets worse and worse for Robbie and his family as the media goes into overdrive. You see right here all the people, all the speculations from people. I wouldn't put past Maddie Naylor to kill for her career. Assistant DA, wonder who else he's bumped off on the way to that job. They look innocent, but you see, and it's just all this scrutiny from the public, and it weighs on all of them. You see, the father, this galling scrutiny, an ugly spotlight. I can't do anything to help. There it is. Just they're feeling helpless in this situation, and I love Ditko's use of multiple faces in that panel there to try to give you like the sense of the general public. A very nice play to his strengths as an artist. He always had really great expressive faces, and he really puts that in the spotlight here in that panel. I like that a lot. And you can see here, even Robbie is having problems because here he comes into school, and even his friends are giving him problems for it. Hey, Rob, who did it? Your mom or your dad? They make a movie for TV where your mom play herself. I mean, and some friends I've got. So there it is again. And again, a play back to the Spider-Man thing, the teasing from the friends at school, the whole, he has these powers, but they're not of any help to anything. They don't make his life any better. They only make it tougher. Again, you can see very much the Spider-Man vibe they're going for with the character. And then as time goes on, we can see here, the parents, you see some of what they go through. You saw the father at work there, as the assistant DA, and he's getting pushed around by the people. You tell him to take time off, and he goes, and he knows that the reason he's being asked to take time off is because of all this pressure. The mother, she's a very socialite type person, and here she is getting, another brush off. You'd think I'd had the plague, So she's getting brushed off by the people in high society who normally would be all up with her because she's a famous actress and whatnot, and now they're just giving her the brush off because they don't want to be associated, they don't want to get involved in any of this stuff. So we see how pressure from society, again, it plays very much the stuff we see today happening with what we call cancel culture. Right here, this is cancel culture right here in the primitive way it's being shown, but that's what this is. And so I like how it kind of almost bespeaks to something that's very even relevant today And like I said, this is from 1988, and so we're talking almost, like 35 years, and it's just as relevant now as it was being shown then. Then of course Robbie, is out there, and he's just pacing around trying to figure out what to do, try to help, and accidentally causes his powers to activate. But if we go down to the bottom of the page, that's the true moment of the entire scene here. And he's in this place. He goes, "I'm glad I stumbled across this cave a few weeks ago. I really needed somewhere to hide out. It's tempting to just stay here and never go back. Blasted energy bubbles. You're no use to me, no use to my folks. What's going to happen to us?" So here it is, all the power he has, and it means nothing because it can't do anything to solve this problem. It's a problem beyond his abilities. Something that's, again, the classic archetype of the everyman hero. Then you can see right here, here's a great moment with the family where they're trying to pull together. He goes, "Father, we can't let this turn us into strangers. We have no foul secrets to hide, right?" And of course, we all know they do. And he goes, and here's Robbie. Well, no criminal secrets, but. And then we can see here in that panel here with the close-up of their faces of all trying to be together as a family, and yet. But we are completely in it. But are we completely innocent? Rob is. But as for us, if only I could be sure about both of us. Would they really tell me everything? I mean, just so even in this moment where they're trying to pull together as a family, you can still see the tension is there. The sense of like, I'm not being told everything, and it really, again, ratchets up all this tension throughout the entire story as this goes on. So what ends up happening, of course, is the police show up and they decide to take the parents in for questioning, since they're the prime suspects. And so they go in, and of course, Robbie doesn't take too well to this. I mean, who would, seeing your parents carted off by the police? And so this is the moment where he decides that he's got to do something about it, because he doesn't think, he goes, who are those cops trying to kid? The department brass wants to nail someone, and my folks are like the best suspects, Some higher up will try to pin it on them just to get it over with. I've got to get out of here and do something about this. He's made the decision. I need to get involved. I have to use these powers however I can. I got to do something to help my parents. And so he goes off and he goes to the school because it's the only thing he can think to do. And while he's there, here's this mysterious person in this mysterious gear. And what is it? What are they doing? Why are they hanging around the school? Who is this guy? What is this all about? And as we can find out as it goes on, he goes, "Hey, who's that guy? I thought it was wishful thinking changing to the Masked Marvel. Maybe I was wrong. He's probably just a burglar with no connection to the murder. But I'll take any long shot if it'll help my parents." And so here he is. He's just going on gut instinct. He has no idea what he's jumping into. He doesn't know who this person is or if they're even involved. But just because they're doing something that seems kind of criminal and skeevy, he's jumping in to find out what it's all about. And again, as we can see here coming up, and this is he's not exactly Spider-Man when it comes to the battle tactics. So he's in there. He gets spotted by this prowler, and well, it doesn't turn out too well for Speedball in the battle category in this scene. As we scroll down a little further here, so you can see he just gets easily caught, thrown over the railing, and he's going to fall. But of course, as we all know, this is Speedball, and his powers are all about kinetic energy. So it turns out that, of course, he was, thanks to my kinetic energy, he's not going to get hurt, but he'll get knocked around. So he's like going to grab one of these landings, and boing, 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 he's bouncing around. People are hearing some crazy stuff, and they think this is where the mystery of, as you saw on the cover, the ghost comes in. They think they're hearing all these weird noises after the body is that skeleton body was discovered, and now all this crazy stuff is happening. People are starting to get scared. They think it's haunting. Oh, what's going on? Oh my God, let's get out of here! And of course, our burglar here gets away. He goes, "I didn't get what I came for, but at least I didn't get caught. No one got more than a glimpse of me," and that begins this mystery of the ghost. Who is the ghost? The ghost. Who is this guy? What is it? Is this our killer? Was this the guy who we were seeing earlier in the red? Who is this? Him? What's going on? But while that's all happening, here's the parents getting grilled by the police, and I love this segments on the right side here where you can see, like, here's the father getting grilled. It's like, your future is at stake. It's for your own good and your families. And he goes, I'll be the judge of that. And just, with the hand gestures, just showing you. And if you scroll down to the next one, you see the mother's getting grilled at the same time in a different room. And with her, you see it's the mouth. And it's like, doubtless you are innocent. But as Justin, jealousy is a powerful emotion, most powerful. He goes, I told you, I have nothing more to say. And again, just in these images, I love this because it shows Ditko is showing some skill in how different men and women are under pressure. Like you saw with the father, it's the hand gestures that they're being used to push, on him, which is because men are visually stimulated creatures. So you show the hands, the pointing of the fingers, the fist, to get a reaction. Whereas with women are much more verbally and emotionally inclined. And so when you see the mother being questioned, you see a close-ups on the mouth of the guy doing the interrogating. As we just get closer and closer to the mouth because that's what's affecting her. And so I liked how he did that. It's a subtle thing. It's something a lot of people probably wouldn't notice when they're reading it, but it helps make the scene much more dramatic, much more intense because you're using visual cues that relegate to each of the characters, way they would perceive being grilled in this way. And I just like that. That was a very nice touch by Ditko. Very excellent scene right there. And so as we go on, now we see the ghost. He visits somebody, as we see here, who he was working for, and he decides, he tells me, next time don't let anything stop you. There we go. Is this guy in the darkness? Is that our mystery man? Is that the real killer? Is he the one who's hired this ghost guy? And he goes, I wonder if that guy in the mask guy knows. No matter. If he shows his face again, I'll fix him. Good. So now we're setting up for the final confrontation between Speedball and the ghost. Meanwhile, again, the parents, more drama with the parents. They themselves, after being grilled, trying again to pull together. But, as you can see here, they're still keeping the secrets. Should I tell her now? No, not yet. When should I tell him? And they just don't know what to do. It's like they have these secrets they're trying to keep to protect themselves and each other, but yet they know they need to come clean at some point. And it's just the dramatic tension of this is what really drives a lot of the story throughout this entire issue. And again, just very, very well done. The close-up of the hands, the close-ups of the faces as they embrace, beautifully done by Ditko. So again, things continue. They're still feeling the pressure. Robbie's getting more pressure at school, but his friends are starting to wonder if maybe they're going too far, And so they go to try to talk to him, but he's been so pummeled by him in the past that, as you can see here at the end, he just sort of freaks out on him. He just kind of loses it and goes off. I'm sick of this listening to your song and dance. Why don't you make it into a video and send it to MTV? And he just storms off and we deserve that. Maybe, maybe not. If he's so touchy, maybe his folks are guilty. Who needs him anyway? So again, more of that classic Spider-Man vibe, with the whole friends, at school thing. So just more pressure added to poor Robbie here, as if dealing with his parents' issues weren't enough and his powers. Now he has this too. So, and then we get again more with our mystery man talking to somebody, but it's not the ghost. So what's going on here? So now we have 3 potential people who are the murderer. We got the ghost, we have this guy in the darkness, and we have our guy in red. What's going on? Who is the killer? Are we ever going to know? So again, I like how they keep building on the mystery and bringing in more and more potential suspects. Then of course, more stuff with the family and Robbie trying to get some stuff done at the lab, but then he decides, I'm going to go back to the school. The cops are leaving. Guess they didn't find any more bodies. I wonder if they found what that other guy was looking for. So he goes back to the school hoping to catch the ghost again. And well, of course the ghost is there because he had this plan from the get-go. So the police are around, Robbie's around, the ghost is around. It's all coming to a head. And so again, Robbie once again bounces in to find out what's going on, trying to track down the ghost. And the ghost finally finds what it is he was looking for. And just in time for Robbie to show up. And so now once again, now it's, Robbie, it's Speedball versus the Ghost round 2. And how does that one go? Well, not pretty much any better than the first go round did. As you can see here in these panels, he like kind of just grabs him from the shadows, chokes him out, and it's pretty much looks like it's over right there. And then of course the ghost gets seen by some people, and they think they run, call the police, and so now the ghost is put in a tough position. Robbie wakes up, he goes to hit him, but by kicking him, he activates his powers, and it goes off in a uncontrolled way, as it always does for poor Robbie. Ghost tries to escape. Robbie starts to try to get a little control. He knocks into it, the ghost, as they go out a window. The ghost tries to use his line to escape, but once again, Robbie uses his bouncing abilities and gets the ghost all wrapped up in the line. And of course, in the end, the ghost is captured, hoisted on his own petard, as it were. See, you idiot, you broke my line feed, and there he is, all caught. So we come now to the denouement of the story, as after the police take him in, and Robbie's wondering, is even catching this guy even going to matter? And of course it does, because as we can see here, a few days later, the news comes out, that both of his parents were determined to have not died, so therefore they can't be responsible. On top of that, our ghost, we found out, is a notorious cat burglar, and he's turned state's evidence and gave up what it is he was looking for, the stuff he was searching for, which are documents that revealed a massive fraud in construction, which of course Alex Bowe was involved in. And someone was prominently mentioned in there. Who is it? Why, well, we're going to see right here who it is. It was a retired contractor right here named
Otto Claes.
Otto Claes. And he's the one who, was the guy in the shadows talking to the ghost in that one scene. But as you hear, he's poisoned himself. But did he? Because here's our mysterious real killer. Once again, I'm safe again for now. So people who were involved are dead, but the one who was ultimately responsible still is a mystery. Who is this guy? What's it all about? And of course, the story ends once again with Robbie and his friends at school. They all kind of, the parents make up, but they know they're still keeping secrets. And Robbie makes up with his friends, and that's where the story ends. So it kind of still leaves the mystery of who is the killer. And this was a main thrust in the book after this point. For the rest of the series, up until issue 9, when they revealed it, for the next several issues, there's little hints dropped in all the little stories they did where, who is the killer? Who is the killer? So this is a really good story. I liked how Ditko approached this. He focused a lot on the family side of things, on the connection between Robbie and his parents, Robbie at school, the parents, dealing with the pressures in their lives when this whole thing comes down upon them. It was a really well done story. It's like I said, it's probably the best single issue of the entire series. It's a lot of fun, a lot of great Ditko art. I was surprised at how well Dan Adkins inked Ditko, because Ditko's style is quite, otherworldly, as it were. And so a lot of inkers could really mess that up, but Adkins does a very admirable job here. It's a very well done single issue story, even though the true mystery is not revealed until later. It's all to build it up. And again, just the story in and of itself is well done. And so again, just a little fun, light story. If you like some fun stuff, some Silver Age style, Speedball is definitely going to give you that. And I would recommend that to anybody who want to check it out. And it shouldn't be very expensive. This book should be like between $5 to $8, and between $5 to $8 in a high grade copy somewhere. Not a very expensive issue. This, like I said, the series only lasted 10 issues. None of them are very expensive. You could probably, get the whole kit and caboodle for probably like $50 or $60. Get the whole 10 issues, and you'd have the entire series. But like I said, this issue was truly, to me, the high point of the series, the best single issue they did, with a nice little murder mystery involved, and seeing Robbie have to deal with things both on the home front and as this hero. Again, it's very much a Spider-Man feel to this story, and that's what I think they were going for with the character himself. Is they wanted to try to relive the Spider-Man glory of the 60s and the 1980s, and that's what Speedball was about. And no issue did that better than this one right here. So I would say, yeah, check this one out if you like classic 60s Spider-Man. If you like the Steve Ditko work, if you just like a fun little story, And again, very much something I think you can let kids read. This is great fodder for children. Speedball, the Mass Marvel #4, can't go wrong.
Yeah, great stuff. An awesome choice, an awesome selection, and just fun. It's like a nice Speedball. It's like a fun thing. Like I said, there's only a few issues. I think if you hit your local comic shop and it's in the back issues, you probably can get it even cheaper than James said. It's just a matter if they would actually have it in stock or not. It's going to be your thing. But yeah, such a great thing. And guess what? You get to own something that Ditko did. I mean, it's going to be a quiet theme today because, that seems to be what keeps happening with James and I. We don't coordinate these things, but there does tend to be a little bit of a theme. And for, I think, the connecting thread in one way is going to be something that's relatively inexpensive that you can own and is done by one of the greats, one of the legends. So that is also going to be a theme in my book, which is Daredevil, Volume 2. This is the Marvel Knights series, issue number 20. So issue number 20 is got 2 stories, and I'm going to be a hypocrite again this week because I have been critical of modern books with how they handle backup stories, but I'm going to praise this backup story. Stories written by Bob Gale. Bob Gale is, of course, more famous than anything. He's the screenwriter for Back to the Future. So he worked with Robert Zemeckis on Back to the Future, and this is in that wake, guys, of when Marvel had gone broke. So Marvel's gone bankrupt, and what they did was they did a license to Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti to do 4 titles through their Marvel Knights brand, and Daredevil, Punisher, Inhumans, and Black Panther. And they brought in Kevin Smith, who kicked it off, and this kind of things rolled through. And there were some delays in shipping. There were definitely some gaps and things like that. By the time you got to issue 20 here, we're having some fun. And what I think is really, it's kind of just a fun story that's kicking off more to come later. And you see Matt Murdock putting on his costume as the news is going on, showing footage of him as Matt Murdock before you see him zip into action here. And then, of course, flipping through the city, and you see these his inner dialogue here. He explains to you some different things that are on his mind, and he's dealing with some regular street thugs that are in masks. Layout. Yeah, very interesting. A lot of action and movement. I love the fact that he really. So this is Phil Wimslade and James Hodgkins. They really indulge themselves with these panels of Daredevil in action. They really, really just try to come up with some interesting dynamics and some things that he's doing, some classic looks that are just overlaying each other. I love it when the pieces kind of go over the edge of the panel. So it just kicks off right away with Daredevil in action, taking out different thugs, doing his thing, and bringing criminals to justice. Now, during this battle, one of them lands on this guy's car, and he's like, "Hey, that's my car. You messed up my car." And then he just kind of bounds away, right? He leaves the scene. This guy's like, "Wait, listen, you messed up my car. Who's going to fix my car?" So that's going to come into play a little bit later on in this story arc. The story arc actually runs for a few issues. And this is kind of where you're getting the court case and what's actually happening here. Now, the backdrop to the story that we're picking up in is the fact that someone wants to hire Matt Murdock to sue Daredevil for damages. He just feels as though the heroes that they are told that they are have gotten too big for their britches. Basically, they're allowed to do things, and there's a greenhouse that was damaged and all of that kind of thing. So this is the resolution of a court case that involves racism. That's what's basically transpiring during this scene right here. And basically, Matt Murdock has gotten the corporation off the hook that no, this was a legitimate fire. It had nothing to do with the man's race. So it just really shows that he is a person that's trying to do what is right at all costs, even though it's just like a lot of public scrutiny.
Also, a nice touch of that is that plays up very much to current times as well. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we see happening even today.
Very, very much so. And this lawyer who you see on the right here, He immediately starts blaming the client and saying, well, I didn't really lose this case. The client didn't give me all the information. So the sleazeball lawyer that's right here kind of comes into play because you're trying to create a juxtaposition of Matt doing what is right, even when it's difficult, versus the sleazy lawyer that's just taking cases he thinks he can win, using the press as an ally. All those kinds of things that play out and are still very valid today. You talked about the media in your book. The media very much play an issue, not only in this first chapter of a multiple issue story arc, but just in the idea of how they cover court cases and legal cases and things like that. So it just sort of kind of goes along for a little bit here, and then they they bring in this girl. She is a real gung-ho little assistant that Foggy's brought in. She had worked in politics, which of course causes him to spit out his coffee. So that's the levity that's there is never sort of like totally out of whack. And then again, we're going to get to that backup story, but here you have more setup for other stuff later on. They don't spend a lot of time on it, but they kind of throw things out there. And by the way, this is a great capture of what the Apple. Remember the Apple computers when they come out? It was all about the color of this little screen thing on top of it. It's the green Apple computer. Such a big deal to get an Apple. Anyway, Jester has served his time in prison as being released. So that's pretty much what is transpiring there as well. And again, we're setting stuff up over the course of the next few issues. The gung-ho assistant's just talking to him about, making appointments for him, getting his laundry, doing all the different kinds of things that are almost very stereotypical. And then this is the Jester leaving, who's basically got a scowl on his face, but he's tossed his costume aside. So listen, that's all behind me. I'm not interested in doing any of that again. And then this lawyer comes in, and I'm sorry, this is not the lawyer. This is the wealthy guy. The wealthy guy comes in and wants to hire Murdoch to sue Daredevil. And that's pretty much what's transpiring here. You can see Foggy's jaw drops. It's like, why would you want to sue Daredevil? And he starts recounting the story about his greenhouse and how there's a big fight with ninjas. They all come through the glass, and it costs him like $50,000 or so in repairs. So that's basically what's happening here before Daredevil just leaves the scene, kind of like he did earlier. And that's the premise of the lawsuit. That's kind of playing up here. He's an overzealous rich guy that has no problem just pouring a ton of money into the case just for the publicity of it all. Right. And he kind of bribes Matt here because he's saying that if he does certain things, he's also going to give money to the charity of the blind or something like that. So it ties to sort of his soft spot of helping the community, especially the blind community, which is what these panels are. So then you have just he and Foggy going back and forth over the case, mulling over it through the middle of the night, not being able to sleep. And that's what's going to be continued till next time. Okay. Now the backstory. The backstory is called My Brother's Keeper. It is written by Stan the Man Lee, drawn by, it's co-written like a plot by Kevin 711 Hall. I love that Stan has no problem doing these things, by the way. So if you're not real familiar with really old Marvel, this is a great, inexpensive book to get a dose of what Stan was like. Stan the Man Lee, Kevin 711 Hall, Gene the Dean Colin, then of course Tom Palmer, etc. And then it starts going here, and you basically have Spidey and Daredevil sharing a drink, having burgers, and they're just like, look at all of the people in the background. They're all like wide-eyed at all this kind of stuff. And it's the Stan Lee jovial conversation where Spidey calls him Hornhead, and there's all these sort of like jokes and things like that. And that's kind of how this all cuts up with everyone interacting with the two of them. And they're in their own little world. They're in their own little world where they're not getting caught up with all the stuff. But Daredevil catches a whiff of a crime. So he just kind of heads out of the way and tells Spidey he has to pay the tab. He's going, sheesh, that grinning galoot stiffed me again. The grinning galoot, James. How many times have you been called a grinning galoot? And this art is just beautiful. Look at Gene. Look at Gene's art. That's just beautiful. That panel with Daredevil swinging. Man.
Well, this is the same team that for years did Tomb of Dracula. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's beautiful work like this. Gene Colan and Tom Palmer did beautiful work for many years on Tomb of Dracula.
And it's just an action sequence, very gritty, very dark. And then you have Stan being Stan. So it's meanwhile with an asterisk, and it says, Quote, meanwhile, the most important word in comics can't hardly do a story without it. And Spidey's thinking, well, I hope Hornhead's okay. What if he bit off more than he can chew? Well, no harm in checking it out. I wouldn't want anything to happen to him, not till he settles up for those burgers. Typical Stan. It's so just like jovial conversation and silliness and the self-awareness that you're literally making a comic book for a living compared to now where things are so over the top and dramatic and trying to deal with like, you know, all of these modern issues and sensibilities, things like that. And like, no, they're just having a good time. And Stan's having a good time. So then you go to this next page and then it's like suddenly in parentheses, another great comic book word. And then he starts having these, and again, look at that beautiful design and style, just something so different and interesting. I love it so much. I was so drawn into this page because then you get to this, which is possibly one of the best panels I've seen in I don't know how long. It's just Spidey in action, and Stan writes, "No way I'll cover up Gene's great action panel with lots of dialogue. Sensitive Stan."
And then the next bit there, but my willpower can only last so long.
Yeah, he starts going, I'm nurturing a deep-rooted feeling of hostility towards you because you're ruining my digestion. You see, a person should rest for an hour after he eats. You better hope I don't get heartburn. So he's talking about food and cutting up and all the things that are just, you know, so over the top and silly, yet at the same time, he's very aware that Stan's very aware of what he's doing for a living. Then you get just fun Spider-Man stuff. You know, next to me, the Grinch is a barrel of laughs and a spark. And speaking of barrels, this ought to hold you till you can cool off. So it's just silliness or whatever. And there's like a little wave goodbye and that kind of thing. And then Stan says, hey, it's only a 6-pager. But what are you expecting? The brothers Karamazov, I see Karamazov, Excelsior. Sure, from some surly Stan. Well, that's a mouthful. Sorry. It's only a 6-pager. What were you expecting? The brothers Karamazov, Excelsior, from Surly Stan. I had a ball, my friend. I was reading the Marvel Knights. I was just like, you know, what happens after Marvel goes broke and they do the Marvel Knights series. I remember the Kevin Smith thing, but I remember reading many of these issues, but I hadn't really just sat down and just barreled through. And I'm on like, I don't know, issue 25 or 6 or whatever. But it was interesting seeing, you can almost see through the lens of Quesada bringing in different people. And the fact that he get this little 6-pager in there from Stan, I thought was just tremendous and a fun just addition for us to kind of include for somebody who, you know, might want to own something that Stan Lee did. Like, this is not an expensive book. This is something you probably can find. I don't think I have this one anymore. I think I gave it away, but if I run across a copy, I have somebody in mind who needs to own it because they have a daughter that's just kind of into comics. But just a fun thing, kind of like you were saying, people forgotten that, you know, Ditko worked on Speedball. So I bet you can probably get it I bet we could find a set of all the Speedball set for like $30 plus shipping, depending on where you're at or your local shop, you know, $30, $35 for Ditko work. That's amazing. I think you probably can. This Daredevil book's, it's just a random back issue.
The thing about both these stories that we have here, both the Speedball and this Daredevil story, is it just reminds you that, you know, this is what comics were meant to be. They were meant to be fun, you know, and it's something that I think has been lost a lot today. You know, people are focused on either political stuff or pushing agendas or even just, you know, hammering home a point of any kind, you know, and they forget how to have fun with stuff, and they don't do that anymore. And it's like, that's what these stories remind you of, is, hey, you know, this stuff is fun. It's not meant to be taken so seriously, even if it is talking about some serious stuff. Like, you know, again, mine talked about, you know, use of the media. In both these books, they show you how vulturistic the media can be. And that's a very important thing, but yet they still don't forget that this is comics. You're supposed to have fun and enjoy yourself while you're reading this. And that's what, if you walk away from it feeling like, oh God, I feel so bad. Oh, you know, you're not supposed to feel that way. You're supposed to be like, wow, that was awesome. I can't wait for the next issue. And that's kind of what you want. And so it's you know, I thought it was important, you know, this time out to kind of give somebody a little something, a story that kind of fills that gap. And again, just very funny how both of us kind of touch on the Silver Age in a later age, you know, mine in the 80s, yours in like the early aughts. where it's like there's these two, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, classic masters of the Silver Age, still in what was quote unquote the current times, still producing stuff that was still just as entertaining as anything they did before.
Yeah, and this whole sequence. I mean, I know there are probably some issues in this. Obviously, the Echo is introduced in this sequence of books in Marvel Knights, but other than that, a lot of this stuff is actually pretty inexpensive. The story arcs are, I think Kevin Smith's was like 8 issues. The one that this is starting with, I think, is 5, maybe 6. It's like a court drama type stuff, and they intertwine some action or whatever every now and again. But it's just different types of stuff. This is the kind of stuff when we think about Daredevil being adapted, it's kind of part of what we thought Daredevil would be. We thought that there would be this type of stuff because this is what so much of the comic books entail is Matt Murdock in his life, having to go to court, dealing with things, sneaking away, dealing with some crime, solving a mystery, all that kind of stuff. And then you mix in something like Stan coming in, sneaking in a backstory with Spidey of just cutting up and having fun. And it was a blast. So yeah, it was a great time. It's a good choices. I think it's a fun time. We love hearing from you guys as well. So I love to see comments. I love to see feedback, things you would like to maybe talk about or something you think we might have missed. We love to hear all of that. It's great. So any closing other thoughts for everybody here, James?
And suggestions. If folks have some suggestions for some titles or some issues that they think we should check out, please let us know because, again, we're not the masters of all knowledge. We want to hear from you guys. So if you got some books you would like us to check out, maybe we'll do one of these bits on them or not. Maybe, just let us know. Drop it in the comments. Give us some suggestions.
Yeah, I agree. So with that, another comic book talks in the books. Hope you're having a great time in doing these week to week. This is our 7th one. It's comic book talks are amazing. Why it's great is amazing. Hope you're having a fun time with that. If you are not a member, you might want to consider it. We do member-only clips with James each time. We have tons of other member-only clips, and also you get to see a sneak. I usually have early access to some of my videos, not every single one, but some of them. So it gives you a chance to just kind of mark them off the to-do list before everybody else will be talking about what Pops has said or done this week. So it gives you a chance to do that as well for being a member. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you, James, hanging out here. All of his links, everything is in the description. Go over and check out his store where you can get original comic book art. Just tons of amazing stuff. I was over the other day just drooling over some other pieces that I can't afford to buy. Mrs. Pops would be mad at me, but I can dream. But thank you, my brother. Thank you for hanging out and doing another Why Is It's Great.
Right? And I'm not playing no games.
All right, folks, welcome. What's Your Story is not what we're talking about. That's the wrong show. Hang on, I will start over.